Good morning, this is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for August 23rd, 8 a.m. We're all keeping an eye on Tropical Storm Isaac in the eastern Caribbean Sea this morning. But here's the graphical tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center. We have Tropical Storm Isaac, of course, right here in the Caribbean Sea. We have TD number 10 out in the mid-Atlantic. And we have a new tropical wave coming off the coast of Africa, and this could be the next system to keep an eye on. Now, TD10 is forecast to become Tropical Storm Joyce and head in the general direction of Bermuda, and that could be an interesting scenario because Bermuda is supposed to be affected by Joyce at the same time as Isaac is affecting the United States. So it's going to be an interesting scenario with two landfalling systems at the same exact time. And then, of course, we have the system developing behind us. There's a lot going on in the tropics right now, but let's get right to the HurTrack program and show you what's going on with the system here. Let's go ahead and animate Tropical Storm Isaac's forecast according to the National Hurricane Center. This system will be approaching our current feature, which is Oviedo, Dominican Republic. That's the southern tip of the Hispaniola, Dominican Republic area. Oviedo is on the Barahona Peninsula, and that should be affecting the area as a minimal hurricane. It's forecast to become a hurricane as it's moving inland, and that would be tomorrow afternoon with 75-mile-per-hour winds. And then as we go forward, the system crosses over Haiti, and that would be in the early morning hours on Saturday. And they always have problems with rain because of the mountain terrain, the depletion of the forest, and the water runoff. They always have a lot of flooding down there in Haiti, so we're going to keep an eye out for that. And then the system is forecast to hit eastern Cuba and then head into the Florida Straits, heading in the general direction of Florida, right near the Florida Keys. It should be affecting the area on Sunday and Monday morning, actually, around 1 a.m. And the system should be hitting in the nighttime hours in the darkness as a Category 1 hurricane. Now, here's the thing about this track. It's going over very warm sea surface temperatures, and I'm going to show you the sea surface temperature map of the Florida Straits in a second, but there's a lot of heat to draw from Tropical Storm, which will be Hurricane Isaac at that time, if it does not weaken significantly over land. And it'll have a lot to tap into, so we're going to have to watch for intensification, rapid intensification in the Florida Straits, and that could very well happen. So people in the Florida Keys, South Florida, the west coast of Florida need to pay very, very close attention to this system because it could really ramp up once it gets away from the land masses of the Greater Antilles. And then you'll see the system crosses the Florida Keys, heads up the west coast of Florida, just offshore, and then continues to move off to the northwest. So there we are in our last position, and that would be at 2 a.m. on Tuesday. And that would be right around the time that the Republican National Convention is taking place, and then this could be a whole... they're probably going to have to postpone this or something if this track verifies, because it's going to be a little bit too close to Tampa. And it'd be dangerous for people driving around with heavy rain and gusty winds and the whole 9 yards. So unless this is way off the coast and at least a few hundred miles offshore, I think they're going to have to postpone this convention. So it's all going to be interesting to see how this plays out at the beginning of the week. All right, let's get to our images. Well, first of all, let me show you a floater visible loop of our system. And you can see that we have a better organized system this morning, but it's been a struggle for this system because there's dry air that's been worked into the system, and really there's been a mid-level circulation and several different swirls out there that's never really consolidated. The hurricane hunters have been flying around out there the last 24 hours, and they've just had really hard time finding very many winds over tropical storm force. But you can see the system is consolidating around a center right now, and it looks like this is the center is somewhere down in here. And what the models are indicating now is that this is going to go ahead and strengthen pretty rapidly here because it's kind of mixing out this dry air. It's becoming much more consolidated here. And then it's going to start moving more poleward as these systems do when they gain a little strength, and the high pressure weakens out in the Atlantic, and this will head toward Hispaniola. And that's why there is a hurricane warning out for these areas, because there's an indication that this is going to be a hurricane by the time it gets to Hispaniola. All right, let's take a look at the ensemble models. Now, this was yesterday's ensemble model picture, not yesterday, 2 days ago, from the 21st. All the ensemble member models, and you can see it's pretty evenly spread, mainly Florida, just west of Florida, a couple sprinkled out here in the Bahamas, and then the official forecast track is the white line that takes it right up the west coast of Florida. Now let's look at today's, and it's not really that much different. Very tightly clustered over the Florida Peninsula, with a few outliers taking it up maybe over towards Apalachicola, and then there's a few outliers over here near the western Florida Panhandle and maybe towards Alabama, and maybe one over toward Texas and one in Louisiana. But the majority of the models are still tightly clustered over the state of Florida, and the official forecast has it going over the Florida Keys and just off the west coast of Florida and heading up towards the Big Bend, Florida area. So we'll see if that all plays out, but the models really haven't shifted all that much in the last 24 to 36 hours. All right, here is the wind shear tendency map, and you can see that there's I know there's a lot of colors to look at here, but wherever it's orange, there's high wind shear, and where there's little blue aqua dashed lines is lessening wind shear. So you can see out in front of Isaac we have a high wind shear, and that's because of an upper level low that's spinning here in the Bahamas, but that's kind of beginning to wash out and dissipate a little bit. There's also another upper level low off to the northeast of Isaac that's causing some northwesterly wind shear as well. So the system's been squashed the last couple of days by these upper level lows and dry air mixing in, but I think once these upper level lows wash out or move away and allow this to really build up into the upper layers of the atmosphere, I think we're going to see this thing really take off. And then the only problem after that is the land masses, and I'll show you a elevation map here in just a minute. All right, here is the this is the 36-hour GFS upper level. This is a 300 millibar level. This is way up around 25 to 30,000 feet. And you can see here that, of course I should have a different color pen for this, but you can see here the beginnings of this trough that's digging out here over the eastern United States. And this is 36 hours out. And then you notice we have this big upper level low spinning here behind Isaac. And that would generally allow an outflow channel and allow Isaac to strengthen, because when you have an upper level low, when you have a trough to the west and a trough to the east, and you usually have a high pressure build right over our system, and I think that's what's going to happen. But again, we're going to be tangling with land here, so it's not going to really have a chance to strengthen until it gets into the Florida Straits. But let's go out to let's go out 48 hours and see what's going to happen here. And the trough, again, here's our low pressure system right here. And the trough is digging even further, and that's why the indications are that this is just going to head right generally in the direction of Florida, somewhere in this kind of a range right here, because it's not going to have anywhere else to go but respond to the trough of low pressure. Hurricanes and tropical storms follow the path of least resistance, and that would be where the lowest pressures are, and they should be over the state of Florida. So that's where the indications are that this is going to affect Florida in some way, shape, or form at the beginning of the week. Now here is our graphical course of our system in the wind field. You see it's a small Category 1 wind field here going over Haiti, eastern Cuba, Florida Straits, and then going into the Florida Keys and remaining offshore the Florida Peninsula. That's the official forecast as of now, but again, this is subject to change as this heads towards the Big Bend area up in here somewhere. That's what the models are indicating at this time. And again, this could shift right or left. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, and I hear this with Hurricane Andrew all the time, that we thought it was going to hit Broward County, or we were told it was going to hit Broward County, and it hit Dade County. Well, if you go back and play the tapes from the National Hurricane Center, the director at the time, which was, well, his name is slipping my mind right now, but the director at that time was indicating that it was going to be South Dade was where the damage was going to take place, and the core of the Hurricane Andrew was going to come in. It was South Dade, not Broward County, and Bob Sheets, that's the name I was trying to think of. Bob Sheets, the director of the Hurricane Center at the time, clearly said it was going to come into South Dade. This was about 24 hours out. So people that thought it was going to come into Broward County, you were in the cone of air. That does not mean that they said it was going to hit you. It just means that you're in the cone of air, and that everybody should be aware that it could hit somewhere within that cone of error. That's why they have a cone of error. It doesn't mean that you're definitely going to get hit if you're in the cone of error. So you just got to pay attention to what they're saying, and right now all indications are it's going to be the Florida Keys, west coast of Florida. It could always be the east coast. It could go well west of Key West. It's a little too early to tell that right now. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at, let me switch sources and take a look at the temperatures. First of all, here's a webcam from Cabaret Beach, and this is northern Hispaniola. Our current feature is Oviedo, Dominican Republic. When you click on that, you can have access to this cam, and there's another cam just north of Oviedo in the inland areas, and there's news and all kinds of information from the affected areas. Click on the Oviedo, Dominican Republic link on next to the tracking chart. You can get access to all these. But there's the cam right now. Things are pretty calm, but things are going to get rough there over the next 24 hours. All right, here are the sea surface temperatures. Look at these temperatures, folks, right off the coast of Florida here, both in the Gulf and in the Florida Straits. We got 30 degrees Celsius temperatures, and 30 degrees Celsius temperatures are around 86 to 87 degrees all in this area. So it's going to be very warm sea surface temperatures to dip into. Now, while I got this map up, and by the way, these links can be found right below the tracking chart at Hurricane City. The sea surface temperature maps, you zoom them in. Here are all the models right now. The aviation ensemble models continue to show a South Florida landfall, with the outlier down here being the AP-17 model, and that takes it south of Cuba. So the aviation ensemble models are what you pay attention to. But I was talking to Chris from Tropical Atlantic earlier, and I think we're going to change a little bit of how these models are produced on these maps, and I think we're going to eliminate the aviation ensemble models and just use the GFS and the AEMN, which are versions of the GFS, and then this will allow the GFDL and some of the other models to get into this, because there's so many aviation ensemble models that they really do hog up the tracking map. So we're going to make some adjustments. We're also going to get rid of X-Strap, which is down here at the bottom of the screen. That basically says if it keeps going the same direction, this is where the storm's going to go. But that never happens, so you don't pay attention to X-Strap. But we're going to get rid of those and tweak those out of the model runs. Anyway, that's about it for now. I'll be back in about 24 hours with another update. But everybody in in the Hispaniola, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, East Cuba, get prepared for hurricane conditions. People in South Florida and in fact, for the entire Florida Peninsula, need to be paying close attention to this, because this could be a significant situation. Oh, one more thing I wanted to show you while I have the Oviedo page up, and that is the elevation map. Let me show you this. Now, this is eastern Dominican Republic, and down here toward the bottom, if this were to cross down into Haiti, we're only talking 3,000 to 5,000 foot mountains, whereas up here near Santiago in the northern parts of Hispaniola, we're talking 10,000 plus foot mountains up here. So these would really disrupt the circulation. However, it looks like it's going to take the path of least resistance, which would be further south and into Haiti. So there's been storms in the past that have crossed over this area and really haven't weakened all that much. Plus the fact that this system is not really that well organized, and it may be in the mid levels of the atmosphere, and that would skip over maybe some of these mountaintops without being mixing down at the surface. But we'll see about that. We'll see how this travels over land and how much it weakens. That'll make all the difference in the world. Anyway, I'll be back with an update in a couple of about 24 hours or so. Use Hurricane City for the latest information on Tropical Storm Isaac. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.